sit back here quietly until you want my opinion.
Hello and welcome to the semi-final game at the Junior Nationals here in Broomstones Curling Club in Wayland, Massachusetts. I'm joined by Graylin Cousins and Ben Clark, and we're looking forward to bringing you two great semifinals here on the men's and the women's side. On sheet 2, we have Team Wisconsin Jenna Haag against the high-performance team Miranda Solem. And on sheet 3, on the men's side, we have Pennsylvania Team Dunnam against Washington Team Vukich. Before we get started, I'd just like to quickly thank our 3 gold sponsors. We have Dunkin' Donuts of Lexington, who has provided coffee and pastries all week, and I think the booth up here is drinking their coffee right now. Whole Foods of Wayland, which provided lunch and dinner for the competitors on Saturday. And Brooms Up Curling Supplies, who is a national sponsor and has sponsored many national events across the country. So welcome, and we look forward to bringing you this game.
Well, Alex, it looks like we're both drinking the delicious Dunkin' Donuts coffee provided by the club today. Early morning draws, it's necessary. I notice quite a few people have the Dunkin' Donuts cups of coffee in their hands. Sorry, that's kind of a plug for the Dunkin' Donuts guy.
Wonder who that is. So as you can see on the feed, we are again showing you both games. So up here we're gonna try to keep commentating on both games and we'll see how it goes. So on sheet 4, Chelsea Solem here coming out with a hit and roll. It looks like the two teams here are starting out with a pretty conservative end. On the other hand, over on sheet 3, Vukich throws a center guard, and it looks like game on right away.
Let me just briefly mention the dynamics of what's going on here with these teams. So on each of the sheets, we have the winner of a 3-4 game last night. So we've got a team coming off a key win in the 3-4, playing against a team that had a loss in the 1-2 game. So we've got people coming hot off a win and another team trying to regroup after a loss, and that's going on both sheets.
The winners of each of these games will solidify their spot in the finals, and there are already 2 teams waiting in the finals. On the women's side, Corey Christensen's Minnesota team won last night to get their spot in the finals on the women's, and on the men's, Corey Dropkin beat the Dunnam team to end up in the finals. So we're trying to, on both sides, find the second team for the finals.
And it looks like we're watching the viewing numbers, and the chat is already started, even though it's early in the morning. We've got almost 120 viewers kicking in right away. Now, for you West Coast people, the Team Vukich fans, we know it's 6 o'clock in the morning, but hopefully you're up viewing and drinking your Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
You might have a little bit more competition out there from some other coffee companies we won't name.
From the other big chain.
So over on sheet 3, the Dunnam team has a chance to draw behind in lie 3, but just over curls and ticks the guard. They do lie 2, and with the hammer here, have a chance to maybe start with a crooked number. And we do have a check-in for fans of the Washington team, so glad to see that you guys are up and supporting early in the morning.
If you tuned in last night, you heard us talking about the crowds in the building here at Broomstones. So the place was packed. It was an evening draw, lots of activity. The club was loud, bustling. Not quite so much this morning. There were a few empty parking spaces, but I would imagine that people are going to stroll in throughout the morning to watch the games. And I think you can see on the cameras that we've got the seating set up on the ice. Nobody out there yet, but I see that there's a couple of reserved seats, and the competitors are going to have to get used to a little bit of extra ambient noise on the ice, similar to what it would be in an arena. Not quite the same. It doesn't have a low rumble, but there'll be plenty of people out, and now they're starting to come out.
I think once some of the other teams wake up this morning, they'll end up out there on the ice and could get a little bit loud out there.
I don't know if the camera can pick up Mr. Rockhead sitting in the front row. Do we know who that is?
It's Adam Jacobson.
Adam Jacobson.
Of course it is.
Our resident Mr. Grasshopper.
Oh, looks like it's made of duct tape. I'm surprised that he didn't catch Michigan to come out and do it with him.
So over on sheet 3, the two Dunnam stones are protected pretty well, and Jake Vukich will call for appeal, try to open it up, maybe even a run back here. Great shot there. Does get one of the Reds out, but much better spot now for the Washington team.
Looks like they both decided to mix it up on sheet 3, the Dunnam Vukich, and over on sheet 2, the Haag Solem game, they're going to be a little bit more conservative about how they start the game.
So Andrew Sapera's ends up over curling and takes out not the stone they were intending to go for, and rolls out. And now Jake Vukich is going to call for the draw and maybe the freeze on the stone on the back forefoot. This is Evan McCauley's second stone.
If you look at the age differences out there, we're looking across the sheets, and we've got 21-year-olds out there, and we also have 13-year-olds. Luke Violette is a 13-year-old middle schooler. So there's a big age difference.
Sweeper's really dragging this stone on sheet 3 right to the tee line. Great shot by Evan McCauley. On sheet 2, we're now up to skip stones, and they continue to trade their hits. Jenna Haag does roll out, but that does the job. Nice run back there by Andrew Stapera. Picks the yellow off the forefoot and leaves the Dunnam rink sitting 1 again. Not sure if that was the call or not, but it works out very well.
I think the call was to move that center guard somewhere, and it looks like they got the best possible outcome on that. Dunnam does have the hammer.
Yes, he earns the hammer here as the loser of the 1-2 game last night. So he comes into this game as ranked higher than the Washington team.
And like we said last night, the hammer is determined by the higher ranked team, not the higher seeded team, the higher ranked team at the end of the round robin.
Jake Vukich's first stone. He'll try to put another stone in the forefoot. Miranda Solem is trying to freeze down to the stone just off the house. Vukich's stone just sneaks by. A little heavy, but great sweeping to get it by, and a nice shot there by Jake.
And that's the risk of, you make a nice run back on your vice skips rocks, but you still leave that rock up on the center line. And Jake Vukich didn't hesitate at all to put the broom down to come right around it. Now he would have preferred to have been on the top forefoot, because as you can see, Scott Dunnam is tapping the button. And there could be room, we don't have the best angle here, there could be room for Dunnam to freeze on the back one, and then Vukich to still freeze again with a shot rock. We're not quite sure about how much space there is. So if Dunnam can get right to the rock in the back of the forefoot, Vukich may still have a piece of the pot to come in and sit shot rock, and then Dunnam will be aced out of shot rock.
Miranda Solem shot ends up in front of the stone just off the house, and Jenna Haag throwing another hit. She does have to worry about the jam. She does jam, but gets rid of both stones and rolls over to the other side of the house. Scott Dunnam's draw here, just over curls, and that's going to give Vukich a chance to either guard or put another stone on the forefoot.
You know, Alex, we talked last night about when these games actually start, and they don't start in the first end. They start before that with the team earning the hammer. And last night was a great example. When you look across the board, all of the hammer teams posted scores first. So it's a huge advantage to have hammer. And awarding the hammer to these teams has gone back and forth over the years. We used to award the top-ranked team hammer and choice of rocks, and that was scaled back, so that was too much of an advantage. So now they'll have hammer and choice of practice, but they won't have the choice of rocks.
And one of the interesting things coming into the playoffs here, as we're only using two sheets. The teams do have choice among all sets of stones, so they can pick stones from 1 and 4, even though these games are on sheets 2 and 3.
I think the available pool of rocks, the teams playing on sheet 2 had any set of rocks on sheets 1 or 2, and then the other team would pick the next set of rocks on those 2 sheets.
So the Jake Vukich stone probably ends up 2-3 feet heavy, and instead of making Dunnam's draw easier, instead of making it harder, maybe makes it a little bit easier, giving him some backing. Vukich does sit too, but now with the backing, Dunnam just has to come down and sit full 4 for his one.
With a catcher's mitt as bagging.
On sheet 2, Solem did end up taking 1. So instead of the blank, they take 1, and they lead the game 1-0 after 1 end. Scott Dunnam's hammer is on its way. Again, needs full forefoot. Looks good. Curling up nicely to the backing. A great shot by Scott Dunnam. That end could have gotten away from the Dunnam team, but that last stone gets him his one, gets them on the board first, and Pennsylvania now has a 1-0 lead. And now we'll test all those stats you were throwing out yesterday, as both hammer teams took 1 in the first end.
Well, that seems to be a controversial discussion about the stats, and the stats that I presented over the last few days about the team posting first and the percentage of, or the chance that they'll have to win that game. So we have lots of viewers, lots of fans here at Broomstones that are arguing those stats, and the reason we teed it up is just to get the discussion going, particularly about taking 1 in the first end, since most people around the curling world will not take 1, given the option to blank. So we have both games where somebody posted first has posted a score of 1, and we'll just see how that plays out.
So after taking 1 there, the Solem team puts up the center guard, and we'll probably see a more interesting end here coming up in the second end. Looks like the Haag stone goes a little bit deep, and Solem's going to try to put that stone on the top 4. On sheet 3, Dunnam also putting up the center guard. I think they wanted it closer to the house, but it's now a long guard.
What we're seeing is a sort of a classic aggressive strategy. Somebody tosses up the center guard, and the first reaction without hesitation is to come around it. Now that's not always the case. If you'd like to be a little bit more conservative, we've seen people draw to the sides this week even. We've seen the hammer team draw to the side, trying to avoid bunching rocks into the forefoot. But for the most part, we're seeing people trying to be first in.
Nick Connolly's stone there is light and over curls, sits right on top of the other center guard. Now Dunnam has a chance to win the race to the 4-foot.
So what we see at the junior level, at the adult level also, if you can be first in, in the top of the 4-foot, then it really puts the pressure on the hammer team to remove that rock. In the case of sheet 2, the Haag Solem game, that first rock in slipped to the back of the 4-foot and makes a big difference, and now may even give the hammer team an advantage.
Great shot there by Andrew Stepera, right on the top 4. And it looks like Vukich is going to call for the freeze. Carly's shot on sheet 2 just ticks the back yellow, but does leave them sitting 2.
The question came up, do we have the stats and the percentages of the wins from the team scoring first, for just this week? And the answer is no, we don't. I'm sorry. I guess we could ask some of our broadcast team and our huge staff working for us here to track those numbers down, but we may not be able to get it.
Grace Bauer's hit and roll here. She makes the double and rolls a little bit too far.
So now that we're in the middle of the second end, we've got Ben Clark with us in the booth. Ben's a national curler. His family's a longtime curling family. So, Ben, you've been here all week. What do you think of the competition here? Is it different than when you were playing juniors?
Well, yeah, I only got to play in this event once, and my team got pretty well crushed. But my brother was telling me about how much the competition has changed, how many new faces he saw on the ice here. He barely recognized anyone who's still playing, which is great. But given that there was that core of people who were going year after year, it's nice to see some new faces.
I think last year there were several people that aged out. In fact, there were some whole teams that aged out last year. So looks like there's a complete turnover. For example, in Wisconsin, I think the entire Morton team aged out.
Yeah, that is true. As it turns out, 4 of the guys on the Stubbe rink this year also age out. So that was a new team this year, but it was a team that had been around in the Wisconsin State playdowns for a while.
So maybe we're seeing sort of a key turnover with the teams, and the players that have been around for the last 4 or 5 years are now aging out, and a fresh group of people are coming through. Some familiar faces, but a lot of new faces also.
So over on sheet 3, Zempel here trying to throw a guard and protect the 2 that the Pennsylvania team has in the 4-foot.
As we get into the game a little bit more, we're going to break down some of the deliveries, and we're going to talk about delivery mechanics and sweeping mechanics, and talk a little bit about how these juniors develop their deliveries and how they learn and how they perform. We talked about the competitive model last night, about how teams get good, how teams form and get good. And so we'll talk a little bit about some delivery mechanics today.
So Aaron Wallace here for Wisconsin, trying to come down and sit in the 4-foot or sit frozen to the stone in the back 8-foot. Luke Violette makes a nice peel. One of the guards does stick around in the back 12, but that stone likely won't matter. On sheet 2, Aaron Wallace's stone, weight was good. It did overcurl a bit, so she isn't quite using the backing. But Miranda Solem here will have Vicky Persinger come right down to it. Andrew Stapera's guard attempt here coming on sheet 3. Looks a little heavy. And they don't want to load any sort of double. Ends up just short of frozen. Nice shot by Vicky Persinger. I think they wanted it maybe a foot deeper, but it's about half buried, and it looks like Jenna Haag's going for a little bit of a tap back.
And you can see she's got a favorable angle, even though she's maybe a little bit deeper than she wanted. You know, it's not easy to come down to hit that rock without stacking it right on the red. So she'll need some kind of lighter weight, get around the guard. The guards are high guard, and you know Broomstones ice is curling this week. So there's plenty of room to get around the high guard and come in and probably tap that back.
Shot from Aaron Wallace here. Hoping it curls over just a bit. Hits pretty much right on nose and does jam. But now red sits one. On sheet 3, we had a pretty big reorganization. And now Dunnam sits 1, Vukich sits 2, and Dunnam sits 3 and 4. Vukich does have hammer here. Andrew Stapera's stone, they're right off. It looks a little bit wide. And he just hits his own stone. Moves the yellow a few inches, but certainly not what he was looking to do there.
No, it looks like a net zero for the Team Dunnam with that shot.
Vukich now has a double to lie to. Miranda Solem's first skip stone here without hammer in the second end. Looks like she's trying to throw a tap back, or even just a freeze.
I think she called the freeze. She tapped the top corner of that red rock.
Sheet 3, they don't quite make the double, and Dunnam still lies 1. But with those 2 yellows in the front 4, that's a danger position. Nice shot by Miranda. I think it over curled a little bit, but it's gonna make it. That stone's gonna make it tough for the Wisconsin rink to take more than 1.
It looks like Miranda Solem's happy with giving Team Haag just 1 here. Now she's still leaving most of the 4-foot and the button. Of course, there's 3 rocks left. Miranda Solem has 1 left. Jenna Haag has her 2 rocks left.
I think it looks like the Dunnam team is not quite sure where they want to hit this Yellowstone. There's a potential double that might roll out, and there is a little bit of a jam risk as well. But maybe they're just trying to throw a hit and roll in front of the pile.
I think that's what they ended up with, and with a little tighter broom, I think they just want to hit that and roll to the yellow rock side.
Scott shot is away, and it looks like it's hanging a bit. Nope, they're on it. Pretty nice shot there by Scott. And over on sheet 2, Jenna Haag makes a little bit of a tap back. I think she was trying to maybe come around, but ends up tapping, and that the angles now work out fairly well for her.
Right, she did rearrange those rocks a little bit to her favor. So it looks like it doesn't matter what Miranda Solem does, she will not be shot rock after her last rock. She's trying to put that yellow in nice and tight to hold Team Haag to 1.
It's maybe possible for her to tap the yellow into the red and possibly sit shot, but I'm not sure. Not sure if that's the call here.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It does look like there's a little bit of room there if she hits it a little bit more toward the center line side.
Certainly quite the stack of stones here, partially hidden by this center guard. Miranda Stone is on its way, and it does look like it's a little bit of a T-line, maybe back 8 weight. But it does need to curl. And it just ticks the yellow stone. A nice double by Jake Vukich on sheet 3. Now leaves them lying 2. Dunnam does have to be careful here, because if he rolls out, he leaves Vukich with a hit on that red stone in the top 8 foot to lie, to bring that stone, the yellow stone in the top 12, back into play. But the double should stick, so a double here, and he's leaving Vukich with a pretty tough shot for 1.
Well, if he makes the double, we know he's going to roll toward the Red Rock side. It still may give Jake Vukich an opportunity to throw a double for 2.
That's a good point. So the double attempt by Dunnam is away. Looks like it's hanging out a bit wide. And that could be trouble for the Dunnam team. Jake Vukich now has a hit and roll for a Washington chance at 3. Just has to hit and stick. Jenna Haag's final stone, looking to bump the yellow back a bit, just sit 2 in the button. It's gotta curl. And tough to tell from here, but there are 3 stones right near the button.
Well, we know that the rock she just threw is not shot rock. Red was shot before, and now she moved it back just enough to make this possibly close enough for a measure. No. Of course, the ones we thought were measure are not the ones they're measuring.
And Jake Vukich over curls, does jam, and I think that's only going to be 2 for yellow. But it's tough to tell. We'll see what they decide. Looks like they're checking all of these stones. And on sheet 2 there will be a measure. I'm not sure if it's a measure for 2 or for 1. All 3 of those stones were so close that we couldn't really tell which was the...
That's what we don't know. We didn't think that they were going to move that back red right out like they did, so maybe they agreed early that was shot rock. This doesn't look all that close from our angle.
And we have a measure on sheet 3 also, so a lot of work right away for these officials.
We're going to put them right to work. This is official Scott Olson. Excuse me, Alex. He's a level 2 official on ice supervisor, so he's going to put the stick on these 2, and he may wait and do both sheets.
We are up over 200 viewers, so it looks like as people wake up across the country, they're coming right to this webcast. Thank you all for joining us. So again, this measure on sheet 2 is either for 2 or for 1. We aren't quite sure. There were 3 stones very, very close to the button. Another note that I think all of us up here in the announcer's booth appreciate is the incredible view you guys are getting. Randy developed a really great view with 6 different cameras showing at once to try to bring you as much of the action on both of these sheets as possible. And so yellow is closer, so it's either 1 yellow or 1 red. Still can't quite be sure until they hang the score.
Until they post.
And now There's the officials hand off the measuring stick, and we'll get to the measure on sheet 3.
The official did use a lot of deflection on that measuring device, which is generally what you don't want to do. The more of the mechanical movement that you put into the measuring system, the less reliable it is. So, a slight glancing blow on the measuring device to deflect the needle just a little bit is more accurate than a big deflection.
So over on sheet 2, the Miranda Solem team is throwing first. So it looks like with her final stone there, Jenna Haag tapped her stone out of shot and did give up a steal of 1. So the score now on sheet 2 is Solem 2, Haag 0. And the measure on sheet 3 went in favor of Dunnam. So that was a score of 2 for Vukich. And the score on sheet 3 is now Washington 2, Pennsylvania 1.
Were they measuring for 1 or 2 on sheet 3?
They were measuring for the 3rd point. So tough miss there for both skips on their final stone, both Jenna Haag and Jake Vukich. And the measures go against the Hammer team, and a couple points left on the board there.
The important thing for Team Vukich was that he posts more than 1, and now being up on the scoreboard, he's considered to be in a more of a control position. Now, of course, it's early in the game, but tied without the hammer is not a control position.
So on sheet 2, the Solem team ends up in the 4-foot, and Jenna Haag will immediately ignore it and go for the corner guard. Down 2, it looks like she's going to try to create some offense and try to tie this game up. The Vukich rink throws a center guard, and we'll see Andrew Dunnam's attempt here to come to top 4. Sweepers are dragging it around, but it does look a bit heavy. And he goes all the way back to biting the 12-foot. So the guard there for the Solem team goes over curls a bit, and Wisconsin will now try to freeze to the stone on the 4-foot. This will be Chloe Paul's second shot. Seen over the course of this week, the Wisconsin girls team does look like they occasionally are trying to corner sweep their stones to try when the stone is hanging out. They look like they're going for the corner sweep to get a little bit more curl, which used to be several years ago illegal. They did change that rule, but still we don't see that all that much.
We don't see that as much now with these swivel head brooms, where you cannot apply the differential pressure. You can try to sweep one side of the rock, outside of the rock, to get a little extra curl, or probably more important, the inside of the rock to take the curl out. So you used to be able to take the fixed head broom and apply differential pressure on one of the corners, and it was actually very effective. But with the swivel head brooms, you don't see that much anymore.
So I've even seen the Haag team on takeouts when they're under curling, try to corner sweep a bit and start the curl. Another sweeping technique some of these teams use is switch sweeping, where they'll switch which sweeper is closest to the stone, trying to favor one side or the other to either make it curl more or straighten it out.
And what they're thinking is that the stroke going away from the sweeper's body is the more powerful the stroke with more pressure, and that tends to favor one side of the running edge. So I know that we're getting a little bit complicated, particularly for the people that aren't really into curling or have a knowledge of curling, but sweeping one side of that edge of the running surface of the rock can produce different results. So that running edge is about 5 inches in diameter. You know, the rocks are 12 inches in diameter, but the running surface, the part that touches the ice, is only about 5. And if you can sweep one edge of that surface, you can produce results. Some would argue that you can produce a lot more results in trying to straighten the rock rather than trying to get it to curl.
Run back attempt there by Grace Bauer ends up taking out their own stone in the forefoot and leaves Miranda still sitting 2 in the forefoot, and she will have Carly Koenig try to put up another guard.
Maybe we'll talk during the game here, since we're talking about the corner sweeping and sweeping effectiveness, we can talk about why rocks curl, which is an interesting topic, and even most curlers don't know what's going on underneath that rock that's making the rock curl in the direction that it does.
So the guard there for the Solem rink comes a little bit heavy, ends up top 12, and Jenna Haag will have Grace Bauer throw another takeout. Possibly a chance, maybe at a triple. So the shot there by Grace Bauer just takes off the top stone, and Miranda again will try to guard this. On sheet 3, I believe Dunnam lies 2, and Vukich now will call for a hit and roll to sit in front of some of the stones in the back 12 foot.
You know, Alex, people have been trying to figure out why rocks curl for years, and it's been a little bit controversial, but there was a study done where some college engineers got together and said they're going to figure this out and how these rocks are moving in the direction that they move, and they came in and they ran their computer models and spent a few days, and at the end of their study they announced that they have no idea why the rocks curl the way they do, and that they think that they should go the other way. So that study didn't help much.
Yeah, that
That was done by a consultant team, right?
that sounds a little bit inconclusive.
Consultant said a bigger study was needed.
They were paid by the hour, I'm sure.
No, these were college professors that came in. They were, and they were baffled by the mechanics and what's happening underneath that rock.
So peel here by Aaron Wallace, nice shot, and Miranda Solem will just keep throwing this guard. She will certainly be happy to keep trading center guard, peel, with her 2 stones on the forefoot. Over on sheet 3, the Washington hit and roll made a double and did roll over, but Dunnam is still shot stone. So now they are throwing a draw to sit 2.
So once the study from the college professors proved nothing, then the next group came in, and this group was a group of curling engineers, so people that knew curling and tried to figure out the missing link in this formula and why the rocks curl, and they figured it out. And we'll get into that a little bit more just a little bit later. So we do know why rocks curl in the direction that they do.
Just gonna hold us in suspense for a while. You gotta stick around for the whole game. It's all in the
So again, the guard for the Solem rink comes a little deep, and the Wisconsin team's trying for a double. Fortunately, hangs out wide again and just picks off the top stone. So with Miranda's first skip stone, she will throw another guard. Andrew Staper's hit and stick attempt does roll out. I think that the Dunnam rink is sitting too, so that's a little bit of a missed opportunity to lie 3. Gives Vukich a chance at a double to lie 2 of his own.
We are getting some comments about why the rocks curl and some of the physics that are happening. Somebody suggesting that the baseball curveball reacts the same way. You'd think it'd go the other way, but it doesn't. There's one key component that the college professors missed. And maybe some of our viewers know what that key component is. Well, hang on before we explain how it works.
So Miranda Solem's guard attempt doesn't curl enough, and I think that Jenna Haag can even get the nose double here, and she's going right for those back stones. Oh, and Jake Vukich on his double attempt has a hogline violation. You see those bright lights on the handle blinking red. That's an unfortunate mistake for Vukich, and now Dunnam has a chance to draw to lie 3.
This is a good time to mention that some of the delivery mechanics. Jake Vukich has a very pronounced last-minute extension with his hand. Now he does that for 2 reasons. He wants to be positive to the skip's broom. He also wants to put a positive rotation on the rock, and that all happens right at the end of his release. However, he reaches out a little bit too much, and I think has several hogline violations this week.
Jenna Haag's double attempt just ticks the guard and actually makes the situation a little bit worse for her as she ticks over the Yellowstone in the top 4, and now Miranda has a chance to throw a guard of some sort to really lock in a steal. But just, Graylin, do you mind explaining how the hogline sensors handles work?
Sure.
Now that we've seen our first hogline violation?
Yeah, it's not the first violation of the week. There have been several hogline violations. I think this could be Jake's 3rd or 4th violation, and they come at, well, of course, there's never a good time for a hogline violation.
Especially not on skip stones.
No. Donnie Barkham always said, how many hogline violations can you afford in one game? And the answer is always 0. So the reason he said that is, why aren't people letting go 2 feet in front of the hogline? So those of you who are familiar with the sensor handles will know that they're activated by the conductivity in your fingers. It's not a heat sensing device. It measures the electrical currents coming off of your fingers. And when that current is touching the handle and it passes through a magnetic field up near the hog line, the sensors will pick up the conductivity with the magnet and turn the red lights on.
So Vukich's second shot, just ticks the top stone. May have even ticked that in to be 3rd shot. So now we think that maybe Andrew Dunnam, Scott Dunnam has a shot to hit and stick for 4, and that's two tough results for Washington there on the skip stones. Just if they sneak by there, then they're gonna force Scott to make a tough shot.
And we can't see whether that outside rock is counting. It's possible that this is a shot for 5.
So
Yeah, I think yellow was 3rd shot.
Miranda Solem on her last stone ends up putting another one on the pile and really puts pressure here on Jenna Haag. I'm not sure actually what she's calling for here.
But it looks like she's trying to throw a draw across the center line to catch a piece of the button with her out turn.
Very, very tough shot.
Yeah, and she knows with the in-turn side, she's got to clear that red rock and clear the pile of yellow rocks, and she's deciding to throw it on the side where she knows she can get through.
Great hit and stick by Scott Dunnam, and the Pennsylvania rink here takes 4 in the third end. Oh, nope, just 3. No,
I think that was 4.
never mind. Andrew Stapera put the score in the wrong place. It was a score of 4, so the score now on sheet 3 is 5-2 Pennsylvania. Big end there for the Pennsylvania team.
No. Yeah, another steal of 1 by the Solem rink.
So that's a pretty good shot by Jenna Haag to just cut them down to only 1. But Solem the Solem team really dominated that end. They had their 2 stones in the forefoot the whole end, and the Wisconsin team had a couple chances to take out some of those stones, and each time just missed either over curling or under curling, and Solem does get their steal, so they now go into the 4th end leading 3-0.
And now she's really forced to try to post 2 points in this end in the 4th. It's an even end. She's down 3. Posting 1, helps, but she's really looking for a 2+ here. So we'll probably look at a fairly aggressive hammer strategy end.
On the sheet 3, Dunnam calls a stone right to the top 4. Now with this 3-stone lead, they can play a more conservative game, and Vukich is going to be forced to really start getting some offense going.
Back to the sensor handles, they really are an improvement to the game, particularly at the championship level. We used to put hogline officials and sit them out in the cold and watch, and it was very controversial. And what the sensor handles are proving, without a doubt, is that the hand is quicker than the eye. And we watched this. We ran this test, and how many people would have pulled a rock that where the green lights were flashing. And a lot of people that have experience sitting on the hog lines would say that was a hog line violation when it was not. So they really are an improvement to the game, and we're not seeing any bad calls from hog line officials.
It definitely takes some of the human error out of the game, and it's one of those things that was always, whenever there was never a happy situation when a hog line was called. You would often see players getting angry at officials, and now we have a system that, for the most part, is almost 100% accurate.
And a lot of those close hogline violations, were caught on videotape. And when they did slow motion the violation, it was clear that it was not a violation, that it was called by the official. So it was really difficult to catch the hand and to see whether it was violated or not.
I know another thing that people used to do, if they were tended to be close to the hog line, they would have to move their hand away from the handle, because sometimes if you leave your hand too close to the handle, it would sometimes appear like you were still touching it. These take that away too, as it's completely censored.
Yeah, the WCF rule at the time was that the rock had to be clearly released, not just released, clearly released from the hand, before it touches the hog line. So, which means if you hovered your hand over the handle, you still could have released the rock, but been called for a hog line violation.
Dunnam team here is just trying to play open, and they make a nice peel.
The sensor handles are very expensive, so that's why you don't see them in all the curling clubs around the country. The USCA owns a set of handles. They also own a set of rocks. So they're, like I said, they're very expensive, and there's just not a big enough market for the manufacturer of the handles to knock the price down.
I think another issue is the battery life on these handles is not all that long. So if a club were to invest in them, they would also have to invest in a lot of ice crew work, replacing and maintaining these handles.
And I think that they've gone through a development process since the prototype handles, several years ago. They're better. The solder joints are better because of the amount of contact, especially on the heavy hits. So they're much better than they were. But even this week, we noticed maybe one handle malfunction in every draw that we had. So that's a lot.
Steven Zempel's peel attempt just hits off nose and will stick around as a center guard. It looks like Jake Vukich will immediately call for a stone around the guard. We also have an interesting end here developing on sheet 2 as Grace Gebauer tries to throw a peel on the 2 yellow guards. Great shot. Great double there by Grace Gebauer.
We didn't forget about our Y Rocks curl discussion. We have some comments about that. One of our viewers suggested the Bernoulli's principle, and that's getting close. That's not what I had in mind as far as the key component to Y Rocks curl. We'll hang on that a little bit.
Quite the cliffhanger.
It is to a curling person. We apologize to the non-curling people out there that have no idea what we're talking about.
Another great double by Grace Gebauer. A really nice pair for her. Gets rid of the 2 guards on her first and then gets rid of the 2 stones in the 4-foot on her second. Really turns the end around here for the Wisconsin team. Luke Violette here trying to throw a come around on the center guard. Dunnam does sit 2, but down 3, Vukich is ignoring those stones in the 12-foot and looking to come around this guard and generate some offense.
Yeah, Jake doesn't have a lot to work with. He'd prefer a couple more rocks up there to come around. So Dunnam, may focus on just removing that corner guard, trying to keep things clean.
Vicky Persinger sneaks by the guard, but does hit and roll out. And on sheet 3, that come around really just barely snuck by the guard. And as we've seen a few times this week, it over curls and comes out the other side. So now Andrew Stapera will have a shot at the stone coming around the center line side of the guard. So one of the things with this much curl is even on a tight guard, you can over curl.
The rocks are curling about 4.5 to 5 feet on draws, and a good foot, maybe even 1.5 feet on some of the takeouts, particularly the lighter weight takeouts.
It's a nice shot there by Andrew Stapera. Doesn't stick around, and Jake Vukich calls the same shot. Come around the center guard. There's Aaron Wallace's draw attempt on sheet 2. And very, very nice shot. Doesn't quite fully bury, but right on the top 4. It looks like Solem will call for a freeze or a little bit of a tap back. Nice shot there for Team Washington. This time it doesn't over curl and is biting the 4-foot, and Dunnam will have to go for the guard. I think he's trying for the run back here on his first stone. Vicky Persinger's tap back attempt for Team Solem, a little heavy and a little bit outside, so it does tap the red but rolls out into the open. And now Aaron Wallace has a chance to hit and roll behind the guard and lie 2.
And that's only the difference maybe in 2 feet of weight on that shot, where she's 2 feet lighter. and she comes up and she snuggles up right next to that rock and makes it impossible to remove. 2 feet more weight, she comes in, she bounces it, spills off into the wide open.
Run back attempt here for Scott Dunnam. And he nails it. Great shot for Scott. Rolls out and actually does take out one of his own stones. So now Jake Vukich may have a decision here if he wants to switch to play for the blank here. Aaron Wallace's hit and roll doesn't quite roll far enough. I think Miranda Solem will be able to see about 3/4 of that stone, and with the yellow biting in the back 12, a double here will leave her sitting 2.
It does look like she has enough room for the double. It's a difficult shot to get both of those red rocks out. She puts this anywhere a little bit wide, and she's going to stack them up, giving Jenna Haag, a matching rocks kind of scenario for 2.
So it looks like Vukich has elected to throw the come around again. So they're trying for a skip's deuce now. See the Washington team using switch sweeping. As now that they need to hold this stone, they have the closer sweeper on the inside of the curl. But it does over curl and even taps in the red to be a biter. Tough miss for Jake. And Miranda Solem's double attempt does not get the double. Just jams right back, and Jenna Haag can come around this guard. If she makes this shot, she may set herself up with a shot for 3. The Solem stone just needed to curl it an inch or 2 more for that double. So it looks like Dunnam is trying to come through that port, or even just tap back the guard on the biter and sit in the top 4 behind cover. Really a turnaround, or a little bit of a turnaround here on this end after that run back. Great first skip stone by Scott Dunnam, and now he's in control. Heavy on his tap back, goes to the back 8 foot, and gives Vukich a little bit of backing to draw to. Jenna Haag's stone hangs out a little bit, maybe even set up another double for Miranda Solem.
Yeah, that's probably not what she had in mind. She was looking to tuck that in a little tighter and leave it another foot or 2 feet shorter.
I think this may even be an easier double than the one that Miranda had on her first shot. So certainly not what Jenna Haag wanted to do with that stone.
Even with the double, she's still going to have to clear that back yellow. And depending on how hard she hits it.
Jake Vukich's final stone is away here in the 4th end on sheet 3. Looking for a draw, needs a piece of the 4 foot. The stone's really starting to curl, and he crashes. They will get it in for second shot, but a steal of 1 for Dunnam, and that puts the Dunnam team in really good control here, up 6-2 after 4 ends. Miranda's double jams and rolls out too far, close there, but the unfortunate jam, as Graylin was looking at, leaves Jenna Haag with a draw to full 12 foot for her deuce.
More and more people are coming out to enjoy the on-ice seating. I don't hear any cowbells or horns or anything like that yet. Looks like Rockhead has some kind of noise-making device.
I saw someone else out there earlier with bells, but looks like he might have put them away. I'm sure thankfully for the people on the ice.
I think as we get more of the players out there, it will get a little bit louder. Some of the eliminated teams often will come out and cheer from out on the ice. Nice draw there by Jenna Haag. Gets her deuce.
I do hear a cowbell out there, or some kind of bell. So.
I believe that is down below us on the first floor. Maybe not.
So Ben, did you think the officials were telling the bell people that they couldn't use their noise-making devices?
Probably not. My experience has been they let the people do just about anything. I remember, Chris Pryde's grandfather was always one for the noisemakers.
It's my experience that the officials let it happen because, any arena curling or large curling club with on ice seating, you really can't avoid it. So it's something
Exactly.
And I think that most of the noise-making people are sensitive enough not to do it right in somebody's delivery, and that they wait for an opportune time to do it.
It's tough though, because especially with 4 sheets going on, you may be a nice time to do it on your sheet, but there's always someone else throwing, which is unfortunate. But it is something you have to deal with. It's something that's going to happen, and I agree that the officials usually let it go, and they should let it go. It's not tennis.
So do you think as a player, does that fire you up when you make a good shot and you hear the cowbells and the noisemakers? Does that pump you up as a player?
I think it has to. I mean, it's exciting out there with all the noise and cheering, and it definitely adds a new level.
I've never been one for noisemakers, but even when they're for me, I don't know. It's that same the NFL thing. You act like you've been there before. You make a nice shot. That's what you were expecting, what you're hoping for. You don't need a guy ringing a bell for you.
So Ben, you don't have your double takeout dance that you do after you make a nice shot?
No, that's my brother.
The discount double out, as it's called right here from our production crew.
So with the 2 by Wisconsin in the 4th end, our score on sheet 2 is now 3-2 Solem, and Solem does have hammer in the 5th. And on sheet 3, Dunnam leads 6-2, and Vukich has hammer. So we're going to see, again, peel attempts here by the Dunnam rink. Steven Zempel here comes out. They're going really hard to try to roll this out, and he will. Ooh, that is a very unfortunate result for the Pennsylvania team. He noses the guard and runs it back into another yellow stone, which then jams on a red stone and rolls to the button. I don't think that could have worked out much worse for Pennsylvania.
You think that's in the worst possible outcome category?
I think it might be.
Not only did he not remove the corner guard, but he also didn't clear any Vukich's rocks in the house.
Violet here, throwing for the hit and roll behind the corner guard.
Question just came up about air horns. I'm not sure that those are allowed. I think that, particularly in a curling club like this, that may be a little too much. And you can see the high ceiling here at Broomstones, and the rocks rumble and echo, and that air horns may be off limits.
There's a reference to the Philadelphia men's and women's nationals last year, where there was quite a loud and rowdy crowd cheering for the East Coast team McCormick. And I think if some of you were there, you'll remember there was a vuvuzela, there were duck noises, there were a lot of people there and a lot of noises, and it seemed like the McCormick team was really fired up with all the support.
And was there any control over the types of things that they were using in that arena?
I don't think so. Not that I saw. I don't believe there were any air horns, but a vuvuzela, for those of you who haven't heard one in person, is very, very loud.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Plastic horns.
The plastic horns that were used in the World Cup in South Africa.
It sounded like bees the whole every game.
I know what you're talking about now. I can hear that in my mind.
They're loud.
I have definitely heard a megaphone in a curling rink before, but I don't know that I've heard an air horn or a vuvuzela.
I think that when we had the Worlds here in 2006, I think we heard air horns, a lot of air horns. Cowbells, air horns were the most noticeable devices.
I think even maybe in at Junior Nationals in Fairbanks a couple years ago there was an air horn. So it's up to the officials in each situation whether or not they'll allow it. So back to the action. Miranda Solem now lying 2 with her hammer, and Jenna Haag now is going to try to clear up the house a little bit. Nice shot by Grace Gebauer there. Gets 1. But Solem's still lying 1 in the 4-foot behind cover. Andrew Sapera's takeout here is on its way, and it looks like it's out there. Really needs to curl over. And he will just roll out.
I'm watching the viewer count. As soon as we cross over the 300 viewer mark, we'll talk about why rocks curl. I know it's still on my mind. And for those of you who don't care about that, just bear with me on that a little bit. It is interesting, but we'll wait for a few more viewers.
We're at 299 right now, so quite a good crowd here early in the morning. It's a nice shot by Solem. And now another peel or run back attempt by the Wisconsin rink. So Washington tries to come around that guard and probably leaves about a third of the stone uncovered. A little bit tough to see from our angle.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, and I think Scott Dunn was looking on stepping up the weight a little bit and trying to double these out.
Yep, thin double, but if he makes it, that's a very good shot and totally changes this end.
Either way, Jake Vukich is still going to have a corner guard, and he'll use that. He needs to post 2 here, being down 4.
Yes, definitely. Gotta start clawing his way back. Scott Dunnam does not make the double, but does get one of them, hit and rolls. And I believe he's now shot, but Jake Vukich will throw a hit and try to roll behind that corner guard again. On sheet 2, Vicky Persinger's hit and roll on the guard just stays on the center line. I think she was trying to roll it a little bit in front of her own stones and doesn't roll far enough. So now Aaron Wallace will have a shot at the 2 stones in the 4-foot. Good shot there by Aaron Wallace. Rolls behind the corner guard. Doesn't quite get both yellows out, but now that with that red behind the guard, it's likely that stone in the 12-foot won't come into play. Nice hit and roll by Jake Vukich all the way behind that corner guard. does probably leave Dunnam with another double, and it looks like that's what he's going for right away. It's a tough thing with those angles there. It was hard for him to get behind that guard and not leave a double of some sort.
Yeah, he was looking at putting it right on top of his other yellow, and it just overcurled just a hair.
Nice run back by Vicky Persinger. Gets rid of that stone on the forefoot, and Jenna Haag will have to find another way to start creating some offense. Although with Solem does have hammer here, so if Jenna Haag can try to find a way to force one, that would be a good result for her. Scott Dunnam shot on its way. Great double. Great double by Scott. And now Jake has an empty house going into his last stone, and I would guess he's just going to throw through and take his chance at 2 in the next end.
That's what it looks like, and he really needs to post more than one, when with this hammer opportunity.
Jenna Haag hits and rolls out, so now Solem has a chance to tuck one behind this corner guard, and if she can place this right, she can really set up her 2. So the blank is complete on sheet 3, and going into the 6th end, the score will remain 6-2 Dunnam, and they will enter their 5th end break over on that sheet. Miranda Solem's draw is on its way. Again, trying to come around this corner guard. Graylin, we are now over 300 viewers, so after this end completes, we may need that. There are some requests in the chat for an explanation. So the shot by Miranda Solem is about half buried on the back forefoot, and I think Jenna Haag is going to try to come down with a lightweight takeout and bump it right out.
2 rocks left here on sheet 2, and then they'll be in their 5th end break. Again, 5 minutes for the break. Not much time to get anything done. Like we said last night, the parents want to feed the kids, coaches want to talk to the kids.
Kids just want to rest.
It is a good opportunity for the coach to sort of check on what's going on with the mindset and where they are in the game, and maybe a sort of a global strategy change. And this is a good thing for the coaches to be able to talk to the kids during this break.
Nice takeout by Jenna Haag, right on the nose, sticks a little bit behind that guard, and at least leaves Solem with a little bit of a tough peel attempt here. But I do think that's the shot she's going to call. Try to peel out this red and keep the hammer coming into the 6th end. And that does look like the call. With the 1-point lead, keeping hammer here is important for Solem. Taking their chance at a deuce next end, and if they can create a deuce, taking a 3-point lead would be big. Solem's final stone is on its way. Looks good here. Sweepers are on it, but it's got about a quarter of the stone, hits and rolls out, and we have a blank end here. So going into the fifth end break, Solem retains a 3-2 lead and hammer going into the sixth end. Exciting first five ends on both sheets. The four-ender for Dunnam in the third end is a very huge point in that game.
And that's going to keep Jake Vukich into a fairly aggressive strategy. He's going to need rocks up front. And he'll do his best to keep as many rocks up front, whether he's got the hammer or not. And of course, Dunnam is going to try to counter that with trying to keep it as clear as possible. Okay, why rocks curl? We've had a couple of requests. Somebody came close. Greg Eisenhower, which is the Iceman. I don't know if you can see him on your video feed. He's that bigger-than-life fellow out there sweeping sheet 2. He's the Iceman at Broomstones. Spends a lot of time. Great volunteer. Doesn't get paid to do anything, but puts in a lot of time making our ice great. So he came close with his explanation, and it's all about...
I don't think that is the real Greg Eisenhower on the chat, for those of you wondering.
Uh-oh. You got an imposter?
I think that is Greg Eisenhower. I think he's downstairs listening to the feed while he's hanging with the rest of the ice guys. I'm not sure. Maybe it's an imposter. But anyway, he came close to his explanation, which is about differential pressure or friction. So the key formula that I was referring to earlier that the original scientists couldn't figure out was the notion of frictional melting. So think about that a little bit. When the rock is curling or rotating, there's different amounts of pressure on each side of the rock. So a rock moving faster over the ice is going to create more friction. The side that's moving slower is going to create less friction. So that's what threw the scientists and saying, well, if that's the case, then the more friction would make it pivot the other way. So the thing that they left out, they couldn't figure out, and somebody figured this out, so I'm surprised that the scientists couldn't do it, is they figured out that what the friction was causing was not rough kind of friction, making the rock pivot on the friction. The friction was causing frictional melting. So the side of the rock that's moving faster is creating more friction. The friction is creating more melting and providing a lubricated surface. And the other side, or the slow side, is what the rock is pivoting on. So I don't know if that makes any sense or if I explained it well enough, but frictional melting is the key to why rocks curl in the direction that they do. And the scientists, the next group of people that figured this out, thought about the skate blade for ice skating. And the more pressure you put on the blade, the more friction you're getting, and the more frictional melting, which is actually lubricating the surface and making you go faster.
You got your popcorn already? It's going to be a good day.
So we have gotten confirmation that the Gregory Eisenhower on the chat is in fact an imposter. I think they can't find the log out button on their live stream.
So we'll see if this Greg Eisenhower imposter is going to disclose his true identity. Either way, Greg Eisenhower, the Iceman, is getting credit for getting the closest to why rocks curl.
So with action back on sheet 3, and a couple guards up, and now Steven Zempel here trying to get rid of both of them. Great shot by Steven Zempel. Gets both guards, rolls to a long and very wide corner guard. He's been making some solid peels all week. So we have the true identity of Gregory Eisenhower has been revealed. Sam Williams joining us. Still can't find that log out button. Vukich now lying 2, and Dunnam will ask for another double from second Steven Zempel.
Those of you who tuned into the Alex and Graylin show earlier in the week heard some trivia questions that we struggled with a little bit, and we tossed it out to the crowd. I have a couple more trivia questions, and once we get back into the meat of the game, the fans get back in from their bathroom break, then I'll toss out another trivia question. This one's a little bit harder.
We'll see if we have Jeremy Rowe out on the chat looking up the answers for this one.
So remember, when you answer on the trivia question, this is supposed to be what you're thinking top of mind. You're not allowed to go to the programs from prior years or to go to the stats and the WCF. So you don't cheat and read the book. If you remember, our last trivia question is, what national and world level curler debuted in the Junior Nationals in 1979 here at Broomstones? And the answer, of course, we've mentioned this twice already, is Tim Somerville. His first Junior National when he was 18 years old was here at Broomstones. That was our trivia question earlier in the week, but I've got a couple more.
Nice peel there by Andrew Stapera. He didn't hit it where he wanted to, but gets the job done. That's really all that matters here. Father Bill Stapera laughing about the results over there, but again gets the job done.
Curling's a funny sport in that regard, that shots are result based, and most people really don't care how you get there.
Chelsea Solem second stone here on sheet 2, trying to throw a corner guard. Doesn't quite curl far enough, but covers a piece of that yellow stone. And Jenna Haag will call for a hit and roll to leave a center guard. Another nice shot by Andrew Stapera.
Alex, do you think we're ready for another trivia question?
Yeah, I think so. We're over that 300 viewer mark, so we've got quite a few people out there who can try to help us with the answers.
So these questions are based on junior national activity, and we know that Broomstones held the Junior Nationals in 1979, again in 2003, and now in 2013. My next trivia question has to do with an earlier Junior Nationals, and just to quickly review, the Junior Men's National started in 1974, and I don't know where that national was held. There were no worlds at the time. It was won by Clefman and Scott from Minnesota. In 75, 76 was in Wilmette, Illinois, 77 in Detroit, 78 in Seattle, and the reason I know this is because I curled in those years. So the trivia question is, and there's a link to this year's Junior Nationals on this question, and that's part of the answer is the link. What significant event happened at the Junior Nationals in 1977? And it was the first time this had ever happened in a national competition. So the question is, what was the significant event, and how is it linked to this year's Junior Nationals?
I thought you were going to ask what year, where was the host club for 75? You go, I don't know where that was held. I thought that was your trivia question.
You're bragging on me.
So we're looking for a significant event in the 77 Junior Nationals?
That's correct. And the link to this year's nationals, junior nationals.
So I think I'm stumped. So we might have to look to our listeners. I don't know if Ben, do you have any historical reference? So nothing here in the booth. So I think we might need our viewers on this one.
This may have to come from our viewing crowd, and maybe a slightly older one.
We need to ask the audience, please.
Couple guesses already.
Well, it turns out it wasn't such a tough question after all, because we have a correct response from our viewers. And the answer is, it was the first 8-ender in national competition. Happened at the Junior Nationals in 1977 in Detroit. Now, the next question is, what is the link to this year's Nationals? One response is suggesting that 8-ender was scored by the father of a current player in this year's Junior Nationals. That is correct. So give me the player's name or the father's name, and then we're done with our trivia question.
This is a multi-part question here. So over on sheet 2, Scott Dunnam throwing his second stone has a hit to lie 3. Vukich does have hammer, but he's going to be forced to, at best, take 1, and that's a tough result here for Washington. Down 4.
A lot of answers are popping up on who these players were. Vukich, Violet, Stepera. We're not there yet.
Nice hit by Scott Dunnam. Lies 3, and Vukich now has a nose hit for his 1, but a very, very well played end for the Dunnam rink, and a force of 1 is a great result. On sheet 2, Vicky Persinger here trying for a down weight takeout, possibly even a little bit of a roll behind to lie 3. With the amount of curl we're seeing this week, if you bring the weight down on hits, you can really get good curl. Here it looks like they're trying to corner sweep and get a little bit more curl, but no luck, and it jams. Nice hit by Jake Vukich. Gets his 1, and we'll go into the 7th end on sheet 3 with a score of 6-3 Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania will have the hammer. So we just saw that jam from Vicky Persinger, and now Erin Wallace has a hit of her own to roll behind and lie 2. Does overcurl a little bit and rolls just out into the open. And now Miranda can use those 2 stones as backing for her draw.
No. Connection. So we do have a few responses on what the connection is to this. With Kakala was an answer. Pedersen is an answer. But Chase Vladimir Sinnott comes up with the correct answer. The answer is Tim Wright, the father of Tony Wright. So Tim Wright was on the Team Illinois in 1977 that scored the 8-ender against Nebraska in the round robin. And his son Tony Wright is the connection to this year's Junior Nationals.
So we do have another addition from a member of the chat that Paul Sophos points out that Grayland was in fact on that team as well.
I was on that team. That's how I'm familiar with this answer to this question. I did play vice skip. I will note that I think that we were down 4 at the time. So have you ever seen anybody down 4, score an 8, and then go up 4?
No.
I can't say I've ever seen an 8 in person.
No, I don't believe I have either. I don't. 8 enders in top competition are incredibly rare.
Well, this is a long time ago.
Of course, back then there was no free guard zone, no free guard zone rule, so all rocks were subject to peeling. So even the first couple of rocks. So, and I remember back in the late 70s that there was a lot of peels, and there were a lot of 2-1, 3-2 games back then. So it just so happened that both teams were in a very aggressive mode. Things got out of hand a little bit for the team Nebraska. They were very young, and Tim Wright had a hammer shot for 8. Now, we didn't want him to be short of the house on that, so he was instructed to throw that about hack weight and see what happens. And he threw it about normal hit weight, and everybody closed their eyes as the rocks bounced around the house, and when we opened our eyes, there were 8 rocks counting.
So here's Jenna Haig's first stone, trying to come down to the stones in the back of the 4-foot, and just over curls. Kisses the stone in the top 12 and rolls to the tee line on the side of the 8-foot. Looks like Miranda will have some sort of a hit and roll to lie 2. Solem does have hammer here in this 6th end.
I couldn't remember where the 75 junior nationals were, so if anybody's out there that can check on that, I don't know where the 74 or 75 nationals were. Starting in 76, it was at the brand new Curtis Curling Center in Wilmette, Illinois, which is closed now, unfortunately. So if anybody out there can share junior nationals for 74 and 75, that'd be great.
Now, did you participate in those as well and just can't remember? Or?
I participated in 1977 in Detroit. Now, that was at the old club in Detroit. Now, that building's torn down, I believe. It was by Tiger Stadium, was not a nice part of town. And they moved, I think, a little bit northwest. And so that club is long gone. That's where it was in 77. In 78, and I curled there also, the junior nationals were in Seattle, Washington. Now, that was won by Jeff Tomlinson, and Kurt Fish, I think, was on that team. He still may be curling.
So here comes Miranda Solem's first skip stone with hammer here in the 6th. I think she's looking for a hit and roll. Nice shot there by Miranda Solem. Lies 2.
Yeah, Jenna Haig is in a tough spot here.
There may be a double on those 2 yellows.
And she just indicated that she's looking at that.
I think if you get like right where Aaron Wallace is indicating, you might be able to send that yellow over the top, and you definitely need some weight to make the shot. But if you can, that would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure sending it over the top is going to work. I think originally she was looking at just the straight double, splitting those 2 apart. But then again, you have to play tight on the center guards.
I mean sending the second yellow over the top of the reds.
Got it.
Just to avoid the jam on the red stones.
But it doesn't look like she's going to throw that rock. She's going to come in with a draw and either rest on this to hold her to 1, or try to hold her to 1, or maybe even get shot rock. Shot rock's going to be very difficult here.
Over on sheet 3, Washington has a draw to freeze to a Dunnam stone in the back 4. This end is not really shaping up the way Dunnam had hoped. A couple misses. They really have to go hard on the Jenna Haig stone here. And she crashes, taps up one of the yellows. Not far enough to be counter, but Miranda will have a draw for 3. And with a 1-point lead already, a draw for 3 here could put them in the driver's seat. So on sheet 3, the Washington Stone came up a little bit light, and now Andrew Stapera is throwing a draw of his own, but this looks to be over curling, and will crash on the high center guard. Does look like it'll cover up the pile, maybe leave a hole for Jake Vukich to throw through. They do have a sort of a triple tap back if they can get to that stone in front of the house. So here's Miranda Solem's final stone on its way. Draw for 3. She needs a couple inches of the forefoot. Sweepers seem to want to go here, but it does also need to curl. Bumps a little and sticks around on the forefoot. Great shot there by Miranda. And the Solem rink takes 3 here in the 6th end to take a 6-2 lead going into the 7th end. Very big 3 there from Miranda, and a couple tough misses on the skip stones for Jenna Haag, and Miranda capitalizes and gets her 3.
So posting a 3 is always significant, but in this case, it's the second half of the game. It's an even end, so that was a extremely important post of 3 for Team Solem. So now this is going to put Team Haag into a very aggressive strategy type of game. So we would imagine that she'd try to keep as many rocks up front as possible. It'd be interesting to see where Miranda Solem's going to put her first rock.
She asked for it right in, so I would expect them to put one in and then try to keep this as open as possible, protect their lead.
So this is a fairly standard move by Team Solem. Middle, second half of the game. It's not late in the game. And she's going to put one right on the top 4. We'll probably see a corner guard from Team Haag. We'll probably see another rock in the top 4 from Team Solem. It's kind of a standard approach to how you maintain a lead.
So on sheet 3, Jake Vukich throwing his first skip stone. Looks like he's trying to come down to the red stone in the back of the forefoot. It looks a little heavy and hanging out a bit. Just ticks off the red, but does not move it enough to make it, to not have the red be counting 1.
That's that dreaded bump that we talked about earlier. It's just a matter of a couple of feet of weight makes the difference there, where 2 feet less weight, he's locked right in there, shot rock. The weight he threw just a little bit heavy, and he bounces out wide open for Dunnam.
So now Dunnam with his first skip stone will try the hit on this yellow. Did he indicate which way he wanted to roll here?
I did not see any indication which way he wants to roll. He may be happy with just peeling that out and rolling to the outside.
The risk of rolling to the inside is you create a pocket for Jake to throw the same shot he was just attempting.
Right, I think that's the last thing Dunnam wants at this point, is to create that catcher's mitt in the back of the forefoot for Jake.
Scott Stone is on its way. And he gets the nose, and that leaves Vukich a hit and roll to the button. So I think that's one of those places Scott didn't really want to leave that stone.
Now, based on where Jake just put that broom, this would indicate that he's going to have an upweight shot, that he's clearly going for the double. He's not trying to hit and flop over the top.
That's true, yeah. A double here will leave him sitting 2. It's a little bit of a thin angle, but especially coming around that guard.
And the double is really tight on that top yellow in front of the house.
Shot is away for Jake Vukich. Great shot. Doesn't get the double, but rolls right to the back of the button, and we'll see what Scott Dunnam has here. The thing he should keep in mind is giving up 1 is a perfectly acceptable result here. He doesn't want to play any shot that's too risky and maybe give up a bigger end. Looks like he's calling this tap back. The risk here is if you hit and jam and roll, and the stone that you tap back rolls out, you give up 2. So I'm not sure this is necessarily the right call, especially with given the ice. It looks like he's going to be throwing a hit weight shot.
Yeah, so let's look at some of his options. You know, he could throw a guard. He could try to protect the right side of the house, but he's playing an aggressive shot to get shot rock here.
You don't know why you'd play this hit weight. You would, because if you just throw it, back 8 or so, you can carry that one to the button without and not have the risk of clearing both those reds.
The stone is away. Scott Dunnam's hammer here in the 7th end looks very close. Oh, what a shot by Scott Dunnam. Takes his 1. Great shot.
That was more like the weight I expected.
So yeah, right. That ended up being that tap weight. It's a great shot by Scott. Takes his 1, and they take a 7-3 lead going into the 8th end. Gutsy shot and very well executed by Scott Dunnam and Team Pennsylvania.
But late in the game now, even posting 1 is significant because it continues to stretch out the margin, and with ends running out, so we've only got 3 ends left, and posting 1 is a lot better option now than it would be earlier in the game.
All week we've seen some really clutch shot making by Scott Dunnam, and he continues it here. On sheet 3, the Wisconsin team does have a couple guards set up, and it looks like they're going for a freeze attempt from Grace Gebauer. But it might come up a little bit light. Couple feet light. The line is good, but Miranda has a couple options to remove either of those 2 reds. Looks like she's going to go for the back one.
We are getting more noise from our on-ice seating folks.
Both of them?
There's a big clanking cowbell out there, and I believe that's coming from current national champion. Is that Derek Corbett?
That is, yes. Also a couple cowbells on the other side of the sheet watching the women's game.
They're going to be really shocked if a cow comes in.
There are cows nearby the Broomstones Curling Club.
Could be a moose, too.
So a hit and stick by the Solem team, and now looks like Aaron Wallace is calling for is trying to throw a tap back on the red stone in the top 12. does need to curl here.
So we're seeing that classic move on sheet 3 with the Dunnam Vukich, where Dunnam will throw top 4, Vukich up the corner guard. Dunnam follows up by another draw to the top 4 again. So that's the exact same thing that happened earlier on sheet 2 with the Haag Solem game.
So the fake Greg Eisenhower did some research, and it looks like 62 of the 90 round robin games were won by the team that scored first. That's some good research by our viewers.
So that supports my earlier stats that 66% of the time the team scoring first will win. So the results from this week, 69% of the teams that scored first won the game.
What percentage of the teams that scored last won?
So the real question is, does that change anybody's opinion on whether they take one in the first end or not?
I think one of the problems with that stat is it doesn't take into account the fact that the team that wins is often the stronger team, and they often score first. So it is a little, as any stats are, there is definitely some bias.
I say we run against Charlie Dole next month.
You know, I would think if the number was 55% or something, then you can say, well, it doesn't mean much because the better teams score first and they win anyway. But, you know, this is nearly 70% of the teams that scored first won the game. So think about that a little bit. Think about that the next time you're in your league night and you have the opportunity to blank that first end and whether you just draw one to the forefoot.
So, Graylin, in that situation, what is your choice? Do you take the one or do you blank in the first end with an empty house?
You know, I think in the shorter game, the 8-end game, I think it's beneficial to score first. You know, a 10-end game is a little bit different, and again, one of my points earlier was very few people do that. Very few people draw to take one. Now, they take one maybe by accident, maybe on a peel attempt or a blank attempt, and they nose hit a rock and they take one, and they're not necessarily unhappy about that. But you know, you see very few people, if any, purposely drawing for one in the first end to an open house.
Now, these stats are on just scoring first in general, not necessarily scoring one in the first.
That's correct. So I don't think the stats that
I
I referred to earlier, it didn't matter when you scored. It could have been even in the fifth end, but the team that posted first, didn't matter when, was the won the game. And I said 66% of the time. So the number here is a lot higher. Well, not a lot higher. It's higher.
Yeah.
So Miranda Solem's first skip stone, she was already lying 3, I believe, and draws a stone into the top 4. Nice shot there, and Jenna Haag has to make a couple good skip stones here to try to take 2.
But I'd like to thank Greg, Sam, Eisenhower, Williams for running the numbers and helping us out here in the booth.
Over on sheet 3, the Dunnam team has 3 in the house. The Vukich does have a corner guard and can start to use some of these red stones as backing. Not a terrible setup for Vukich. On sheet 2, the front end is discussing the shot with Jenna Haag, trying to figure out exactly what to call here. Looks like they're trying some sort of a draw or tap back around the right side.
The way it looks now is the way the ice is curling. Now she just moved that broom in a little bit. It looks like she may be looking at the raise and not the come around. I'm not sure there's enough room to come around with that broom.
She does need full forefoot to get shot stone, and this looks narrow even for the raise.
Well, and she may be going through the hole and trying to draw her right up to the side of that rock in the forefoot.
Wow, look at this stone go. Curling really hard. But it is heavy. Oh, no, it will stop. Great shot there by Jenna Haag. We aren't really sure what the call was, but the result is good. She sits one.
I think she was trying to raise that rock, but I can't be sure.
Either way, red sits one, and we'll see what Miranda tries to do. Giving up two here is an okay result for Miranda. And no matter what, Jenna Haag does still have a tough draw on her last stone to get her two. With a 4-point lead, Solem will accept giving up two here.
You know, playing the second half of a competitive game is about getting and maintaining control of the game. So being up on the scoreboard, obviously she's in control. So if she gives up 1, 2, 3, she's still in control of the game. Now you give up 4 and let them tie, you're technically in control, but then there's a mental component there about letting somebody back into the game. But it's about maintaining control and maintaining your lead and your hammer options, particularly in the even ends.
That is for her deuce. Jenna Haag, nice shot. Gets her two.
Of course, Jenna Haag would love to get all those points back in one end, but she's happy with posting 2, and that sort of gets her back into the game and sort of changes the flow a little bit.
Great pair of shots there by Jenna Haag. The end was not looking good going into skip stone. She makes a great draw on her first and a great tap back on her second. There's still a big hill to climb for Wisconsin, but they get their deuce, and now we'll see what they can do here in the 8th end.
Now, I'm not sure how Team Solem can peel and keep things clean, so it'll be interesting to see what she does here when Jenna Haag, of course, is going to put up the center guard. Maybe for early in the game, Miranda Solem wouldn't hesitate to draw right to the top of the forefoot. So we don't know what's on her mind here. It's the 8th end. She's up 2. She's in control of the game. Will she start to try to keep things clean, or will she play more of a normal blended game and keeping some of the rocks up front?
Over on sheet 3, Scott Dunnam with his final stone has a hit to lie 5. He doesn't really
for 5.
Hit and save for 5. It doesn't matter if he sticks around here. Vukich has hammer, and it is a perfectly acceptable result for the Dunnam team to give up 1.
And I think he's happy even if he clears his back red. So a nose hit on that yellow makes it even more difficult for Jake to.
Yeah, that might be the best result. Don't want to come too close to jamming. hits it pretty thin, but gets it out, and that's a nice shot by Scott. Jake Vukich has to throw a draw to the forefoot for his one.
And now we can see what Miranda Solem chose on her shot choice. Instead of coming into the top four, which would be maybe a shot she'd play earlier in the game, that she's going to the side, and she may try to keep things as clear as possible in this eighth end.
Jenna Haag going for the hit and roll, and will roll out. I'm a little surprised they didn't try to throw a draw or another guard there in a situation here where they really do need to steal.
Particularly if Miranda Solem's plan is to ultimately remove that center guard.
Jake Vukich elects to go with the hit, and his stone is away. And nice shot by Jake, takes his one. Dunnam will go into the ninth end, leading 7-4 over Vukich. Very, very strong position here for the Pennsylvania boys.
You know, we talk about the unwritten rules that people talk about in competitive curling. You know, one of the rules we mentioned earlier in the week was that you can't expect to steal if you're not in the forefoot. That doesn't mean you won't steal. It just means you can't expect to steal. And another unwritten rule that gets bantered around is when you have the free guard zone rule, the 4-rock rule, that you use both of your rocks in the free guard zone. And because you're going to need those, particularly if people are going to try to keep it clear, that always use your 2 rocks.
And the way that Miranda Solem is playing this end, if Jenna Haag had ignored that stone, I think Miranda would have then eventually ended up peeling the guards, and if they needed to, they could hit that stone later on in the end. But we'll see. Now that was a nice hit and roll, so it's a good shot, and Miranda now will go for the peel. Actually, maybe she might be trying to get that back stone.
I think she's aiming for the back, and she'll take the front.
Yeah, certainly getting rid of either stone here is an acceptable outcome. Out of hand, it's a little bit wide. But does curl up enough just to hit and roll out there.
Right, like we said before, there's no lack of curl here at Broomstones with the rocks that were freshly textured 2 weeks ago.
It's a very long guard there by the Vukich team on sheet 3. And Dunnam, in contrast to the way that Miranda Solem is playing this end, will try to come around the center guard. Come around for the Wisconsin team does not get much of a berry, and Solem has the same shot again, trying to hit this stone in the top 12. By the guard. Looks like they're going to hit and roll, but stick around in the house. Nice shot there by Carly Koenig. On sheet 3, the Vukich rink puts up 2 center guards, and Scott Dunnam has Andrew Dunnam throw 2 stones to the forefoot. Again, Jenna Haag going with the hit and roll here. And a Great shot by Aaron Wallace. Perfect hit and roll right to the top 8 behind the guard, and Miranda Solem will now be forced to peel the guard.
And Team Haag is having better results with a hit and roll behind the guard than they are with the draw.
So we have looks like we have a few more people coming out onto the on ice seating. Still some noisemakers out there. Definitely, if anyone is in the area and wants to come down, there's a lot of seats out on the ice. They will fill up quickly, so show up early. Ooh, flash on sheet 3 by Steven Zempel. And this is one of the problems with putting those stones in the forefoot for Dunnam is the Vukich team makes a nice freeze and this end gets interesting. On the other hand, the Solem team kept them in the side of the forefoot, and that makes the peel game easier for her.
So there are options there. If they're trying to maintain the lead, you either put them in the forefoot behind the center, you go to the side, or you throw them through. So Team Dunnam elected to come into the forefoot behind the center guards. Team Solem elected to go to the side. Two different types of shot calling.
And we have Sam Williams now identified as himself in the chat.
Found that logout button.
He did finally find the logout button.
Looks like he needed some help. He didn't do it by himself.
So a couple nice freezes on sheet 3 for the Washington team, and Dunnam's going to have to start peeling, and even once he gets rid of these guards, it's going to be interesting in the forefoot there. A lot of stones in play. Nice peel by Steven Zempel. Gets rid of the top one. With a long guard like that, that's really all he could hope for. And here on sheet 2, Jenna Haag puts up a perfect guard. And Miranda Solem with her first stone will likely try to peel, although a run back is an option too.
Remember our unwritten rule about stealing not in the forefoot. So I'm not saying you can't steal if you're not in the forefoot, but it does give the Hammer team, particularly in this scenario on sheet 2, gives them the entire forefoot to draw with their hammer stone for 1. Now, the reason that rock is up in the 8-foot now is because of the hit and roll. So they never really had any opportunity to get that deeper into the forefoot.
Yeah, it was a great shot to hit and roll there, but as you say, that is part of the risk there. Is you can't throwing the hit and rolls. You don't have as good of an opportunity to get into the forefoot. And we'll see what happens here with Miranda's first. Looks like they're going for the run back, but it will hang out and just peel off that top red. Good shot though. Jenna Haag will have to put that guard back, and either way, Miranda will have a draw to just get a piece of the forefoot, which, as Graylin's been saying, that's a shot that you sort of have to expect your opposing skip to make.
And you can see Jenna Haag's hesitation there. She suggested for a moment that they come in and maybe bite the top 12 foot here, maybe to change Miranda Solem's shot call. So let's imagine Jenna putting that rock in the top 12, just biting. So maybe Miranda Solem tries to run those 2 rocks on the double instead of drawing against 2. So that changes her shot selection. But she ultimately chose the center guard.
Nice shot over on sheet 3 by Andrew Stapera. gets the hit and a little bit of a flop over, and now those angles set up much better for the Dunnam team. Still a lot of stones in play and a lot of stones to come. And the guard by Jenna Haag over curls maybe an inch, but still covers almost all the stone, and Miranda Solem goes right for the draw.
Very nice shot on sheet 3.
Yeah, very, very nice shot by the Washington team.
Yeah, this is not the situation Scott Dunnam would prefer, being up 3 playing the 9th. With Jake Vukich having 3 rocks in the house. Shot rock and 3 rocks in the house.
Just peels the guard there by Andrew Stepera. And we'll see what Vukich tries to do. They are sitting 2. We think the top 2 stones there, the yellow and the red, are very close.
Looks yellow though.
Jake is electing to leave that red rock in play.
And here's Miranda Solem's final stone. Needs a piece of the forefoot. Comes real close to the top red, but great shot by Miranda. Takes her 1 and takes a 7-4 lead going into the 9th end. So yeah, definitely in that end, a good result for Solem, with some of the hit and roll strategy that Haag was playing. There was never a ton of pressure on Solem, never more than a risk of just a steal of 1, and she had the forefoot the whole end, and with her final shot made the draw.
So that's an important post for Solem. Late in the game, even end. Posting 1 in that 8th end is always important, particularly if you're up. And now she's continuing to stretch her lead a little bit, and Team Haag is running out of ends.
So the guard by Jake Vukich over curls on sheet 3, and Dunnam will have some sort of a hit. Not quite sure he has enough to get the double, but he will. Just removing 1 here is a good result for Scott.
Now, bopping those 2 yellows, if he does happen to stack it and not get the double, he may put that yellow rock into a shot rock position. It's not right now. Oh, you think the yellow is counting over the red?
Yeah, we do think they are lying 2 right now. But this could even, depending on where he hits it, he could roll to freeze onto that second. Oh, no.
Takes the guard.
Over curls and crashes on the guard. That's a tough miss there for Scott. And Jake now has a couple decisions to make. He has a hit to lie 4. Without hammer, he's not likely to steal 4, but he does have to worry about the angles on those 2 yellows, because there is a nose double for Scott if there's no guard in front of those 2 yellows.
I think he's trying to cover the forefoot. That's an important thing now when he wants to steal. He wants to prevent Dunnam from getting to the forefoot. But if he removes this red rock, I don't see how he's going to completely cover the forefoot. He's going to spill off the top of the red, leaving the whole right side of that forefoot for Dunnam. Looks like a really tight broom on this.
We have seen a little bit less curl on some of these hits.
Yeah, that side's been running pretty straight.
So he has to hit this a little bit on the center line side of nose so that he doesn't jam. And if he gets this right, he will be sitting 4. And again, the full 4, all of the forefoot is open. But still will be a tough draw for Scott Dunnam. And right out of his hand, they are going hard on this. Nice shot. Bumps one of his yellows a little bit far over there, but probably leaves. Yeah, and Dunnam immediately signals for the draw. So Scott Dunnam here throwing a draw to the forefoot against 4 yellows. And then the nice thing here for Jake Vukich is there's no backing for Scott Dunnam.
And it looks like, does he just have to touch the forefoot? It looks like
just a piece of the red there will get him shot stone.
So it's a fairly wide open shot to the forefoot. There's not a huge margin. This is all weight and draw consistency to get him to the forefoot on this shot.
Out of his hand, the sweepers think this is heavy.
The initial indication is that
they're not really too close to this stone.
Now they're getting closer, but they're still. In fact, they're not even cleaning it.
That's right through.
That is.
Yeah, oh, that's right through. Oh yeah.
And that goes through for Scott Dunnam. Does jam on
3 or 4.
Does jam, and I think it is 3 yellow for the Vukich
I think it's
team.
4.
Maybe 4. We'll see when they hang the score, but that is a huge game changer there. At worst, this game will be tied.
Well, right out of his hand, the sweepers were brooms up on that, and maybe they
4.
maybe they got the write-off call.
That is 4. And that is a 4 for Jake Vukich. Tough miss for Scott Dunnam, and now it goes from a commanding position in this game to now down 1.
This brings up our topic from last night, is what would you prefer? So Dunnam is down 1 with the hammer. Do you consider that to be a control position, or does Vukich have the control position? We went back and forth on this last night, and I think the majority of the viewers would rather be up 1 than to be down 1 with the hammer. Up one without. At least our viewers were saying that was a better control position. Historically, down 1 with has been the control position, but people are changing their thinking on that.
The extra added factor here is the momentum after taking 4 is strongly on the Vukich side. It's a tough. This is going to take some mental toughness for sure from the Pennsylvania team to recover from this 4. Remember that they're still in a pretty good position here and make the shots necessary to take their deuce.
And if you can think about game control and maintaining game control, then you can get through this. And you're right, it's difficult. You just gave up a steal of 4. You had a commanding lead, and now you don't. You still might be in a control position. So if you can shake that whole, giving up 4 thing, and maintain your control position, and get your 2, then you can survive this type of situation. It's all about thinking about who's got control of the game at this point.
So over on sheet 2, sorry, Vicky Persinger trying to throw a double here and nails it. Great shot by Vicky. Oh, sorry, my mistake. That actually ends up pretty badly for the Solem team. I switched the colors, and that leaves Jenna Haag lying 2 in the center, and with a chance to set up a steal. Still down 3, or to set up a 3 here with hammer here in the 9th. Andrew Dunnam's second stone here on sheet 3. Gets by the guards. Nice hit. Rolls maybe a little bit farther than he wanted to, but makes the takeout. And Jake Vukich will now throw a hit and roll of his own, try to get behind those guards. This is Luke Violet's first shot.
So Scott Dunnam clearly looking for 2 points in this end. Now, if he can keep things open and he can keep the game going by maybe drawing for one, that takes you to the extra end, but then he clearly loses control of the game, being tied without the hammer. So he's going to push hard for 2 points in the win right here and to not have to go into the extra end.
It also, based on the first call by Jake Vukich, it looks like Washington is playing for the steal here. They put up the center guard right away. The hit by Violet there did overcurl a bit, and Scott Dunnam will call a similar hit through this port. And Steven Zempel's stone crashes on the guard. Unfortunate result, and now Jake Vukich going for the center guard. It's a little bit of an aggressive call there for Jake, certainly going for the steal. The stone counting there is in front of the tee line, but not far in front of the tee line. So with the amount of curl we have, Scott Dunnam will have some chances to tap that back.
Normally removing one of the guards by missing your shot maybe a little bit wide is not normally a big deal, but you have to consider where that yellow rock is. That thing is touching the button, nearly covering the hole. So removing the center guard is great, but you still have to get rid of that rock on the yellow, and you got to outcount at some point. Team Vukich slipping that rock into the rings was not what he had in mind.
And Steven Zempel now will attempt for a hit and roll, and hopefully a hit and roll and double. Doesn't get either the roll or the double, just hits nose. And it looks like Vukich is going to try to call a nose hit on that top red and leave another center guard.
And the important thing here for Dunnam is that rock is now another 12 inches away from the button. So if Dunnam has to draw for one to stay in the game, he's giving himself more room.
We have seen, earlier in the week, we saw Scott Dunnam make a fantastic shot in the 11th end against Ethan Myers. He only had about an inch of the button to draw to, and he nailed it. So definitely leaving the button open is what Scott's looking to do.
Now Dunnam is in a more favorable situation where he has an opportunity to get rid of that rock on the forefoot.
Miranda Solem's double attempt here takes the top, but still jams on the side. So it leaves Jenna Haag still lying too. That stone just over curled by about a half an inch. Tick the top stone instead of getting the middle stone first. And Jenna Haag trying to figure out a way to solidify her shot at 3 now with 3 stones remaining in this 9th end on sheet 2.
And Jenna Haag trying to give Miranda Solem the most difficult shot possible. Miranda not having the hammer. So she's trying to find a place for this rock that's going to make it tough for Miranda to keep her from scoring multiple points.
And meanwhile, the Dunnam team did flash their hit on the stone in the forefoot, and now Vukich is going to guard again.
Oh wow, that's a tough miss there for the Dunnam rink. Had a chance to use those corner guards, and now Jake can just put up another center guard. They do on sheet 3. The sweepers are really trying to drag this to the center line. Jenna Haag stone here. Looks like it's going to end up top 8 foot, but will leave Miranda Solem with a double, maybe even a double and a roll behind to sit 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best place for that. And again, Miranda's going to have to make a great shot to take advantage here. But it does look like that she can flop underneath, a little bit underneath the corner guard, and still make the double. Again, she's going to have to make a nice shot to bail out of this situation.
Yeah, definitely definitely didn't for the Wisconsin team. Leaving a double for Miranda was not ideal. They really needed to figure out a way to keep those stones spread out to set up for their three. So this is Miranda Solem's final stone here in the ninth end. Looks a little bit tight out of her hand. And the sweepers are on it all the way. And she jams. But actually the roll there isn't too bad because she is sitting second shot.
She did get a favorable roll on that. Now, looks like Jana Haag is going to take that out. And looks like with the broom she's placing, she's going to have some kind of nice control weight or hack weight. This looks more like a lighter weight normal hit.
Yeah. Does, as you can see, there is a jam there. She does have to watch out. If she hits and rolls and jams just a little bit, she will still get her two. But a nose hit here, and I believe she'll only get one, and that's the one miss she can't have here.
You know, there's no good place to put that yellow rock. You know, you can't put it on your own rock, obviously, but if she stacks it up on her own yellow, it's still not clear on based on the roll on if she's going to count three or just two.
And they're on this all the way.
Yeah, and there's a lightweight takeout.
It looks very close, though.
They're holding it well.
Great shot by Jenna Haag. We may have a measure for that third shot, but she at least gets two.
Like I said, there was no good place to put that yellow rock, and she stacked it on her own. It spilled over, and they may even be measuring that.
So they will. They signal to the official, and Scott Olson will again bring out the measuring device.
I think if that thing had stacked on that back yellow and nosed it, I think Jenna Haag would have been fine with three, but it hit it and spun off and then moved that red rock a little bit, I think. Scott Olson out with the measuring device.
On sheet 3, we do have a timeout. This end is not shaping up well for Dunnam. Certainly a couple misses, and Jake Vukich is in a very strong steal position. There is still the button open for Scott Dunnam on his last stone, but this is first skip stone for Dunnam with hammer. I don't know, maybe you just go for the draw here because you're going to have to throw it on your second anyways. If you throw this run back, you take away any chance for two.
Well, it depends. If he's really going for two, then he could put one, biting the pot completely behind cover. And then that would put all the pressure back on Jake Vukich. And it looks like a three for Jenna Haag. She did get the benefit of that measure.
So tie game on sheet 2 coming into the 10th end. Solem will have hammer. But great end there for Jenna Haag. Takes her 3 and game on.
And both of these games are setting up to go right down to the wire.
Late comebacks. Love to see it.
So here's Scott Dunnam's attempt here. Looks like he's trying for either the peel or the run back. And he nails the run back. What a shot by Scott Dunnam. Guards are still there, so now Jake Vukich will come around, but clutch shot there by Scott. If Jake can put this top 4, though, it may almost leave Scott with no shot. Maybe just that run, again throwing the run back.
So maybe that's the conversation they had with their coach. Do they go for 2 and for the win right here, or are they happy with tying the game up and going to the extra end? And it looks like they're happy tying the game up. He didn't want to draw and force Jake into a tough shot.
Another very clutch shot, though, by Scott Dunnam. Given the call, that was about as good as he could have done there. We'll see what Jake Vukich can do. Trying to put this top 4 and leave Scott Dunnam with a tiny piece of the button to draw to.
We're over 400 viewers now. We're at 414, so looks like a lot of people are logging in for the conclusion of both of these games.
Remember that we still have more action coming to you later in the day. We have the finals will be at 1:30 with the winners of each of these 2 games. Jake Vukich's stone on its way. The sweepers are trying to bring this as far as they possibly can. That looks like it's light. We'll see if they can even get it into the 8-foot. And that stops top 8, top 12, and Scott Dunnam has a draw to bite a piece of the 8-foot for his one to force the extra end.
Yeah, Jake was looking at least another 5 or 6 feet on that draw. He would have preferred to put that top 4 and really put the pressure on Dunnam. So Dunnam has to essentially hit the 8-foot for the tie.
And you hate to mention it now, but you know the pressure has to be on after coming heavy on his last stone last end.
Certainly.
Right. If you remember in the 9th, Dunnam was significantly heavy on his draw to the 4-foot.
Final shot, 10th end for Scott Dunnam. Needs a draw to the piece of the 8-foot. Sweeper's indicating it's heavy, but they're close. Looks pretty good. Sweepers are off it again.
It does look
this
a little
stone
hot.
Needs to stop. Oh no. Right to the back 12 for Scott Dunnam, and that is game. Big comeback there for Jake Vukich. Unfortunate last couple ends for the Dunnam team, and that's tough to see. So now game over, sheet 3. Jake Vukich wins the semifinal and takes his spot in the final at 1:30 against Corey Dropkin. Very, very tough result there for the Dunnam team, and after some great shots all week and great shots all game, a couple draws there cost the Pennsylvania team this game.
In that situation, Alex, it's not uncommon to, you get the whole building watching you. You're young. You don't have a lot of experience with that kind of shot, and the body's natural reaction is to gear up, and not gear down for that kind of shot. So it's just a difficult thing to scale it back enough to let your sweepers take over.
It's almost impossible to simulate the amount of adrenaline you'll have in that situation. There's nothing quite like throwing a last shot in a playoff game at Nationals.
And people have talked about, how do you prepare for a shot like that? How do you fix things? How do you... And, some people suggest that if you know that that's your tendency, that if your adrenaline does boost you up, it gears you up and not down, then, that you have to dial it back. You have to throw for the number 3 position or the top of the house. And some people battle it by doing that. Other people, try to train and practice and, so that the anxiety doesn't affect you.
And you just have to remember, you have 2 real strong sweepers out there that can help you out and should help you out. You want to use them.
Yeah, like I said, it's not uncommon to see that. You're going through the house, and it's a shame because, like Ben said, that you've got 2 great sweepers that can, add 8, 10, maybe even 12 feet of distance to your rock. So those sweepers never had a chance on either one of those Dunnam shots.
No. So now we're back to sheet 2 here with Solem and Haag. Tie game. Solem has hammer and is lying 1 here on the button. This is a little bit more of a crowded house than I think Solem might prefer. In a perfect situation, she would have sort of a wide open draw to the 4-foot with her final stone. Oh, and the shot by Carly Koenig over curls and rolls over into the open.
Once again, you don't want the bump and roll off in this situation. So Jenna Haag has her opportunity to get that rock off the button. Although her indication is that she's not going to play that.
Timeout here by Jenna Haag.
Coach Wally Henry sitting right next to us will have to make his way down to the sheet of ice. Remember, he's only got 30 seconds of downtime on the clock before their clock starts to run again. So he's going to have to make his way through the crowd down onto the ice. So 30 seconds after the timeout was indicated is when their clock will resume. And I don't know, we can't see the clock, so we're up on the second floor.
We just sent our third man in the booth, Ben Clark, down to check on the time. Both teams have occasionally been close on time in their games. As you were mentioning, Miranda Solem had a game where she was fairly down in their game against Christensen.
She was significantly down on the clock, like 2 minutes underneath the interval times.
So once Ben Clark comes back up with the numbers, we'll let him give you the update. Yeah, just so.
Just a quick check on the clocks downstairs, and we have Haag has about 5.5 minutes left on their clock. Solem about 6.
So that's enough time. Time probably shouldn't come into play here as long as they're fairly decisive in this game. Again, the clocks do reset to 9 minutes and an extra end, so well, not that this game is not exactly looking like it will end up in an extra end.
So we're not sure what happened down there with Coach Wally Henry, but she is playing some type of a hit.
And they are going hard on this stone. They really need to get it by. Nice hit and roll there by Grace Gebauer. Gets her to 1. Doesn't quite move it out of the house, but that stone won't matter later in this end.
Yeah, we weren't quite sure what the call was there, but with the light weight, it didn't look like that she was just blasting the double. And Solem indicates for the timeout. Once again, the coach has 30 seconds of downtime. Their clock is not running. But as soon as he gets to the team or the 30-second mark,
This is a timeout.
This is a timeout for Solem. And like we indicated earlier, the timeout really isn't a timeout. It doesn't really help you. In fact, it hurts you on the clock because of the travel time allotted for the coaches, and we're at the home end, and that's 30 seconds. The travel time is 1 minute to the other end. So it does not help your clock situation to call a timeout. Now keep in mind, we're not even to vice skips rock here, so we're in the middle of the end. And there's some jockeying to try to get into that forefoot. Miranda Solem likes her position of that run on the pot, and she's, instead of just covering it, she wants to come in behind the center guards and force sort of a corner frozen guard for protection of her yellow rock. No indication of the sweepers. In fact, they're not even cleaning the rock. So, not what Miranda Solem had in mind. Jenna Haag indicating that She went through several shot indications there where her first reaction was to hit and roll, or maybe double, but she ended up for the draw shot right to the button.
If she can sit right in between these two yellows, it's going to be a tough stone for Miranda to remove.
And this does not look like draw weight.
I think she indicated backline sort of weight.
Okay, so that Ben says that was probably the call, and this may end up in a pretty good spot
Very
for
nice.
us.
That's a very nice shot by Aaron Wallace.
That's in a great spot because there's no obvious way for Miranda Solem to get rid of that at this point.
So she looks to be indicating about a back 8-foot weight tap back. Definitely needs to get that. She has shots left and needs to move that yellow stone out of there so that she can remove the red.
But the control of this end just shifted from Team Solem over to Team Haag.
Shot from Vicky Persinger here is hanging out a little bit wide, and it doesn't look like it's coming back. And just goes right by the stone in the button, goes all the way to the back 12. So with shot stone, Jenna Haag will just look to protect that counter and solidify her steal here. It's going to be a tough stone for Miranda to remove.
You know, Alex, everybody's susceptible to that kind of pressure. Now, they're the only sheet going. There's people lining both sheets, both sides of the sheet. Lots of people in the warm room. There's almost 400 people watching this on the webcast. So there's a little bit of pressure on these girls.
Shot from Aaron Wallace here, looking to just guard that center line.
Yeah, she just doesn't want this to over curl. Maybe a bounce would even help her, but she's not going to get it.
So maybe over curls a bit, but we'll see what Miranda calls now. This end is getting tricky for her. What do you see here, Graham?
Well, she's seeing the raised double, where yellow onto red and splitting the reds off, maybe leaving her yellow on the pot. But I'm not sure she can.
I think she jams.
Yeah, I'm not sure she can get across the face of that yellow enough to make the shot that she's calling.
What about with like a board weight or a control weight?
Maybe
and just try to move those reds a little bit, because you got to find a way to move that red stone off the button.
And she's not calling that. It looks like she's trying to
appeal.
Trying to clear something.
Vicky Persinger's second shot here. And they're on it right away.
Vicky Persinger throwing the heat.
Oh! Wow, what a shot there by Vicky Persinger. I'm not sure if that's what they were looking for, but I don't think there's any way that shot ends up better.
Wow.
Takes out two of the red stones. Absolutely incredible result for Vicky Persinger.
And like I said, curling is result based. So, nobody cares how it got there, but now the control of this end shifted back over to Team Solem.
What a shot there by Vicky Persinger. Still now Jenna Haag has to freeze to that yellow, and she can put herself right back in control.
She's in a great position to lock one down on that's behind the tee line.
Just important to try to sit right on the nose of that stone. And her shot is curling hard now. And they're going for line. Weight's all there. Nice shot by Jenna Haag. Over curled by a couple inches, but she is shot stone.
Yeah, if she was going to over curl, then she wanted it to keep going. She wants to be buried behind those center guards. Solem has no option on the right side of the sheet as we're looking at it. So she's forced to throw a similar shot with just another foot or two of weight.
Nice shot by Jenna there. Comes off the crazy shot by Vicky Persinger and puts herself right back on the button.
She did a great job of sort of ignoring what had happened there, She placed the broom down, went down to the hack, she threw it, and it was nice. She was poised. She didn't seem like she was too upset about that crazy shot, like you said.
So this is Miranda Solem's first skip stone. She does have hammer here. Looking to tap the red stone about a foot. Just get it off the button. Weight looks like it's all there. And this stone needs to curl a lot. And they are trying to get a little bit of corner sweeping going. And no action on that red stone at all. So red is still shot. A couple different ways for Miranda to get at that red stone. She can hit. She has a tap back on the right side and possibly a double on the left side. Use that red stone on the side of the 4-foot to jam into the yellow. So no easy shot here for Jenna Haag to block all shots. Maybe the shot is freeze or even tap back that yellow a little bit and try to sit two.
I think that may be her only choice here, because Solem does have the right side of the sheet as we're looking at it, and all she has to do is get that red off the pot without moving her yellow.
Right.
Which is not that easy, particularly in the angle that's coming on. So even if Miranda Solem did hit her yellow on the right side into the red, that yellow may spill off, actually move sideways a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe the best shot she could make is tap that yellow back a little bit, roll over on top and sit two. Another option is just freeze to the pile. At least make it a little bit tougher, but if you freeze, I don't think that changes the shot for Miranda too much.
No, I think that she would have to move that back a foot to really give herself a good chance.
This coming down looks a little bit light. Only about close guard weight.
Maybe they want a little bounce off of this red.
And I don't know that does very much to change Miranda's shot.
So here's what we talked about earlier. So this is risky, because if she hits this rock too full, which means she hits more on the nose, she'll move her own yellow rock that's on the pot sideways. She moves the red rock straight back and has the chance of stacking on the yellow. So this is not an automatic.
No. She does still look like she has the in-off on the red stone on the left side if she wants it. That guard over-curled a bit and doesn't take away that shot.
What we don't know is if the red stacks on the back one, will it be shot over the yellow that she's trying to drive into it?
Right. I think it, well, as long as it depends if she moves the yellow stone that's also on the button. If she can move the red without moving the yellow, that's all she needs.
But I think the object rock, the one she's about to hit, I think if that comes in and hits the red cleanly, then it's sitting 2 inches into the button, and I think the red moves back again. We don't have the best angle here, so she hits it anywhere on our right side, she is in pretty good shape.
Shot is away from Miranda Solem, throwing solid hit weight here, trying to run this yellow back into the red. Sweepers are on it all the way and off.
And that's exactly what we talked about.
And that is like one yellow. Great shot by Miranda Solem. Game over. Solem defeats Jenna Haag 8-7 in a crazy 10th end there. What a
fantastic games.
What a back and forth end, and they're just taking another look at this quickly, but what a shot by Miranda Solem. Crazy shot earlier in the end by Vicky Persinger, and we now know our finals. So quick, just to go across the sheets, Miranda Solem defeats Jenna Haag 8-7, and on the men's side, Jake Vukich with a amazing comeback win defeats the Dunnam, Pennsylvania rink 9-7. So our finals today at 1:30. On the women's side, Miranda Solem will get another shot at at Corey Christensen, and on the men's side, Jake Vukich will take on a couple of the defending champions on the Corey Dropkin rink. So a couple of great finals. So please come back at 1:30.
Yeah, it looks like we have our number 1 and 2 seeds playing on the women's side. Christensen does have a 2-0 lead this week on Miranda Solem, and this is also a rematch of their final game last year in Madison.
So just one more time, we'd like to thank our 3 gold sponsors: Dunkin' Donuts of Lexington, Whole Foods of Wayland, and Brooms Up Curling Supplies. And I'd like to thank my partners here, Graylin Cousins and Ben Clark. It's been fun bringing you this game, and we can't wait for the finals at 1:30.
All right, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Ben. Nice job. Hopefully people will tune in. We'll see everybody at 1:30 this afternoon.